The number one question we get from pastors and leaders is all about their team. In fact, building a staff team and a team of volunteers is critical to growing a healthy church. It's the first thing Jesus did when he started his ministry. He built a team of disciples. Today, I will give you the 5 keys to building a dream team on the Grow Leader podcast.
Welcome to the Grow Leader podcast, everyone. My name is Matt Miner, and we're here with Pastor Chris Hodges. PC, how are you doing?
Thrilled to be here.
Episode number 2.
Yeah.
We're old pros at this now.
Well, we'll see.
The Grow Leader podcast, we're here so we can grow leaders that grow churches and help them reach their full potential. And excited about the content today. And I just want to say this. Thank you so much for all the feedback and responses we've gotten from last month's episode. Really gotten a lot of feedback about that. It helps us to know that it's helping leaders out there all over the place. And so feel free to share everything you're hearing from us today. Help others know about what we're doing here at growleader.com. And do want to say thank you so much to our sponsor today, Wesleyan Investment Foundation. WIFonline.com is where you can find them. They do an incredible job helping churches. Why don't you tell them a little bit about our relationship with them?
Yeah, we met them several years ago, and this organization was really created to help churches get loans for their buildings, and they only help churches. And then there were a lot of our ARC church planters who were getting into their first facilities and really having a tough time with banks or getting loans. And we've stepped in. I think there's over $350 million of loans that have been given right now to our ARC churches. So they're our best friends, man. These guys are incredible. And it's helping a lot of these churches that, of course, started portably to get loans for their first facilities. And not only that, for those who aren't building buildings, they're giving some of the highest rates for money on deposit. So we have our money on deposit with them, and they've become dear friends, and we're grateful for them.
So grateful for them. If you're watching today in a situation where you can't take notes, if you're running, working out, maybe driving in your car, as always, everything you hear in the podcast is going to be available in our show notes. And so we've taken the notes for you. We'll get those out to you. Very, very easy to find. If you want to find those, the easiest way, go to growleader.com on the podcast tab. You can find the notes there. Last month, we talked about the questions that leaders should be asking. And today we're going to talk about the question you get asked the most as a senior leader.
Yeah, so we do a lot of roundtables. And if you're listening and you're a pastor or a leader, you can actually apply to be a part of our roundtable experiences. They're incredible. We'll have 2 or 3 days where we sit in a circle and we show them what we do as a church, but we have some of the greatest discussion. It's my favorite learning environment, by the way. I've learned more in a roundtable setting than any conference I've ever attended anywhere, more than even what I learned in school. I just love the dynamic of being able to ask questions. And hands down, Matt, the number one question we get asked is, help me with my staff, help me with my teams, help me find better leaders, help me grow a better volunteer base at our church. So it's the team concepts that are the number one most asked questions. We could give you several hours of teaching on this today. Probably the best lesson I ever learned around the topic of leadership and leading and building great teams was actually from a book. I don't think I've ever told you this before either, by the way. Some of the guts of this content came from a textbook while I was an accounting major at LSU.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is one of the reads. And buddy, that book is about this thick.
I was going to write down the name of the book, but as soon as you said that,
I think it's called The Leadership Challenge. Okay. And all I remember is yellow. You can tell it really had a great impact in my life. It's this big, giant yellow book. But it was a textbook for my accounting degree. And I just remember, really, there were basically 5 principles in this. I have since tailor-made them to fit church work and what I do, but really, give a little hats off to the material that came out of this secular textbook when you're studying business in college. And I want to give them to you today, and I really think they'll help us build better teams. I just want to begin, though, by reminding everybody, the first thing Jesus did before he preached sermons or healed people is that he put a team together.
That's great.
And I think, honestly, it's probably the most important function that I do today. In fact, the way I say it is the best thing I ever did. So I have to give God a lot of praise. People who know me well know that God deserves a lot of praise and glory for what's happened at Church of the Highlands. the more they get to know me, they know how in the world did that happen, right? But if I did any one thing well, it's really, honestly, it's developing leaders like you, Matt, and our other campus pastors, our staff team. Of course, we have more than 26,000 people on our volunteer-based dream team at the church. It's the most important function that we do.
So how do we do it?
Well, I'm going to give you these 5. These are tailor-made from this textbook, and here's the first one, and that is you have to be the kind of leader that people want to follow. So what people don't realize whenever you're building a team, that a lot of it has to do with you. And that comes back to some of the core principles we talked about last week, and that is, I think people are attracted to my leadership. Honestly, if it's kind of hard to say it that way. I hate to be, saying things to myself, make myself look good. But I think when I talk to people that say we enjoy following you, I think they like to follow me because I think they really know I really love God, and I think people are attracted to passionate leaders. I think great leaders are good with people, but I think there's this excellence, consistency. I'm a little bit predictable, and I think that actually gives people that are followers some safety. But honestly, the last one is this joy, this fun factor, this, we laugh a lot, we eat a lot. I think people want to be around people like that. But the way John Maxwell says it is, people first follow the person, then they follow the plan.
I can tell you why I follow you.
I'd love to hear that.
I don't think we've had this conversation before. So
we did not prepare this.
This is not planned.
I hope you do well, or you may not be the host next podcast. But no, go ahead.
You're easy to follow because you always know what you're going to get. So you're the same. There's authenticity on stage, off stage, small meeting, big meeting, guest in the room, home crowd in the room. You're the same all the time, which makes it very, very easy to follow. You also allow permission to fail and space to thrive. And so one of the things I've always appreciated about the Highlands team is we are very different. You're not looking to hire people just like you. You're actually looking for the people that are not like you to have a very diverse set of skills and gifts, personalities in a room, which really, really helps everybody out know that, hey, there's space for me to be me and still help execute in the system that we're in and really go accomplish the vision.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. That was not planned.
You will be here for episode 3. No, I really appreciate. Awesome. I appreciate it. That it's very kind of you to say, and I have to say this. I don't think that came natural to me. This means a lot to me, and I work very hard on it. And I'm more task driven, so I see lists and things to do, and so I have to work hard at this. This is not natural for me to be the kind of leader that people want to follow. But I'll tell you a book that really impacted me greatly. And John Maxwell wrote a book, and I highly recommend this book. It's called The 5 Levels of Leadership. Spectacular. And he's got a version of this teaching he can give and customize it to biblical leaders and give you biblical examples. Of course, the books he writes to a broader audience as well. But there are 5 levels, and I'll just say them to you quickly, but I'm not going to do the content justice. But he says that the first level of leadership is what he calls rights, and that is that people follow you because they have to. And most people think that that's the top, and it's actually the most bottom level, basic level of leadership.
Title alone.
Exactly. It's the title on your desk. It's the I'm the boss, so line up. And they'll do it, but they don't want to. And then he gets into the second level, and that is relationship. People follow you because they now want to, and they want to because they're in relationship. They truly believe that you're for them, and you love them, and you want the best for them, and you do want to empower them. But that's only the second level of the 5. The third is what John calls results. And results is people follow you because of what you've accomplished, of what you've done. And that matters because it's why people want to go play football for Nick Saban. Right? Yeah, because I'm gonna end up in a championship game. Mm-hmm. They don't even have to like him. And they probably don't, because I don't know. They may like it, but they know they're going to end up in the NFL,
Right.
So now, and I think that's important for leaders to realize that you have to be the kind of leader that can produce some results, not only for yourself, but for that other leader so they can accomplish. But that's the third level. The fourth is what he calls reproduction. People follow you for what you've done in them. And now you're mentoring. And now you're maybe even helping their kids, and you're reproducing your life in them. And the last level, the level that we all hope to attain someday, I don't think I'm there yet, is the 5th level, and that's the respect level. People follow you because of who you are and what you represent. You're, in some cases, you're the Billy Graham. You've become bigger than life, and it's just because you're Billy Graham. I want to be a part of that. But this is a great book for us to read, I think, if you want to get this first all-important key to building teams, be the kind of leader people want to follow. Number 2, and I don't think leaders think about this one enough, and that is to communicate a vision that people want to join.
That's great.
So I know a lot of leaders that are actually all these things we talked about in point number 1. And I've talked to leaders who have great ideas and vision and hopes and dreams for their church, their business. It's not enough. You've got to be able to communicate it in a way that rallies the troops. And what I recommend is actually for leaders to listen to great motivational speeches. I mean, the I have a dream type speeches that causes 1 million people to march on the mall of Washington, D.C. What is that? That's more than a dream. It's the ability to communicate it in a way where people want it. And so I don't think we think enough of this. I think every pastor ought to listen to more vision nights or vision Sundays of churches that they respect, because they're going to hear in this communication that it makes people want to, like the disciples did for Jesus, drop their nets and follow, because they knew they were in the presence of someone great. I had this in your show notes, but let me read this great quote. Leadership is ultimately about creating a way for people to contribute to making something extraordinary happen. Let me say that again. Leadership is ultimately about creating a way for people to contribute to making something extraordinary happen. The words I use, if you can communicate a vision that's both exciting and ennobling. So we're going to have fun, and buddy, it's going to make a difference.
Right.
So it's going to be a blast. You trust me, you want to come do this with me? And by the way, we're going to change the world. If you can put those two things together, you can use this in your home. Again, these are principles that you can work in business, family. It's having exciting and ennobling. So one of the things that we do, and we're going to talk about this in a future podcast, is we have a legacy team and we have a legacy vision. And our legacy vision is the vision we're not doing yet. It's the gap between, hey, we're doing a lot, but here's what we could do if. And we communicate these through the help of Lee Domain, who is the CEO of Grow Leader and organizes all this for us. And we're going to get him on a future podcast to explain to us, because what he helped even me with is it's fine for you to have vision, but we've got to explain this to people who want to contribute. And so we created these 5 legacy lanes for people to contribute financially into our church, and it's made all the difference in the world.
And when you tell somebody you can't set the vision, but you can help control the pace and how fast we get there,
exactly,
they light up. They want to be a part of it.
Because they have power now to say, oh, so that's what you want to accomplish? And say, yeah, we're going to do it one day, but you get to determine if it's 2 day.
Right.
And it's amazing how that energizes people. So here's the point again, is that to build great teams, it starts with your own character, your own integrity, your own passion. Are you someone that people want to follow? But the second becomes, are you communicating vision in a way where people want to drop their nets and like, yes,
yep,
I'm ready to go. Here's the third one, and this one kind of makes sense. You would expect this one to be on the list, and that is we need to recruit fantastic people to join us. And when I say recruit, I don't think people know this, Matt, that it's every day for me. I think it's the most important function other than preaching and studying. It's the most important function I bring personally to the Church in the Highlands organization. And that is, I'm always looking for leaders and for talent and when I say that God has to send them to us. I don't want to be disrespectful to, this is a calling, this is a ministry
right.
we're a part of. I'm not an agency, right? But there's never any conversation that I'm in with someone that I'm thinking, I wonder if we should do life together. I wonder if they should be on our team. I wonder if I have them in the right spot. And that's
my story.
Tell your story for a second.
Started out on the creative team, so got hired at Highlands to help create video content. And so I ran cameras and edited videos and started interacting with you in between services on Sundays, talking about our Sunday experience. And you started asking me questions. Hey.
Well, I think we actually brought you were so creative, we brought you into our creative meeting that
right.
we have every Thursday. And you always came prepared with some of the best questions and ideas, and you saw ways to make our church better. which meant I was underutilizing you. And that's when I knew, I got to get you into a place where you can touch more than a video. And honestly, I'll say this to you. I know your other 22 colleagues are listening, the campus pastors, but you're one of the best, if not the best, man. You bring a lot of joy to all that we are as a church, and that's something that we can never stop doing.
You don't ever stop doing it. I see you at all staffs, and I'm watching you on stage before all staff starts. You are scanning the room to see who is working with people, who's gathering people around them, and you're also watching the person sitting off by themselves, who's just in a chair.
And I'm very attracted to people who what I call light up the room. Mm-hmm. So I've been known to hire people and to promote people to places just because of the way they can change the temperament of the room.
Can you tell the story about Amy Lee Bamberg?
So in the very first years of the church, I was looking for someone to lead our dream team, which are our volunteers. It would turn into be, tens of thousands of volunteers. But I knew culture was more important than organization, especially in the early years of the church. So we had this monthly reception for all the new people in our church. And back then, everybody was new, of course, in the early years of our church. And this is where we just explained, the story of Highlands, why I moved to Birmingham, what our vision is. I think most people do something like that. But one of the things I used to add to this meeting was I would always have someone speak who was actually in their chair last month, and they joined the church now. And I thought, what better to hear from somebody who a month ago was trying to look for a church, and now they picked the church. So I used to pick 2 or 3 people from the previous month's reception to come say why they joined the church. And I'll never forget, she had just graduated at Auburn University ready for this, in landscape horticulture. Yep. So she was going to put plants in people's yards and design landscaping. She got up there and communicated our vision. She owned the room. Afterwards, she was high-fiving people. I think she met everyone there. There were hundreds of people there that night. She met everyone. And I walked up to her and I said, I don't know what you're good at, but I want to hire you today. I'll find a place for you.
It was a quick interview process.
And she ended up leading 10,000, 12,000 dream teamers with a landscape degree.
And she is still to this day the standard for what a dream team director does. The spirit she did it with, the personality, the joy, exactly how she did it.
And that's what I mean by recruiting fantastic people to join you. I think most people have heard the list. I'll include them in the show notes. So if you're working out or driving, don't think, oh my goodness, I want all this content. I think I learned this first at the Global Leadership Summit. But what you're looking for people, I call them the 6 C's. And that is, I want something that's obviously Christian. Anyway, so you don't want to really, if you're going to lead a church, you might want to start there. You want someone with character. You want someone with competency, so they're good at what they do. You want someone with chemistry, that's big, so you get along. Mm-hmm. We call this the divine flow. I don't know why I love you, I just do. And by the way, the opposite of that is true. Somebody who's very competent, but you just would rather avoid them, don't hire them.
What's your filter for your day off?
So I've always said that I would never hire somebody that I wanted to avoid on my day off.
That's great.
Because I wanted to do life with the value of chemistry. The 5th one is culture. Do they love the culture of your church? And then finally, are they called? So we'll include those in the show notes. But we're recruiting fantastic people to join us.
And you never stop doing this. We have farm teams, if you will. That's not what we call them. But guys who are next up, ladies who are next up, who will be ready in 6 months. They'll be ready in a year and a half.
So we literally have more than 30 leaders we're developing to find our next one campus pastor.
Right.
And by the way, that's the best tip I could pass along to the listener, and that is, if you need a spot, don't go after a person. Go after a group of people, because the person who emerges will always surprise you. So if you go one for one, you'll miss it sometimes. But if you have a spot, and I always disciple or mentor 10 or 12 people to find the next one something. Right. So it's the best way to do it. Here's the 4th one. We're running out of time. We always want to keep these every first Monday of the month. We want to do it basically in the length of your workout, about 20 or 30 minutes here, okay? And that is number 4, and that is ask the team for their ideas. So one of the biggest mistakes I think leaders make, and the reason why they don't have a great staff team, is they don't really invite the ideas, the empowerment of the team to speak up. So the way we say it is we allow them to challenge the process, but not the vision. So I'm constantly asking, hey, is there you can't change the vision of our church, but is there a better way to do this? Is there a way we could do this to get more horsepower out of what God's called us to do?
And you are open to listen to anything for the person that brings a solution. If you're just coming to complain, you got to stop there. But if you could say, hey, here's a problem, but here's an idea I have, ways we can make it better, you've listened every time that I've been around you.
And that's how you ended up as a campus pastor. So we would rotate people onto this creative team, honestly, to find out, are we underutilizing some talent? But it all began by asking them, hey, what do you think? Was there a better way we could have done that Sunday? Is there a better way we could have done that women's conference? Do you have any ideas for small groups? And the people who bring these ideas to the table, what happens is, it's a cool thing, and that is they're always excited about their own idea. So they're already naturally motivated in that area. So why not ask them what their idea is? So the way I say it to leaders is you lead with questions. So, because see, this is a discipline for me, Matt, and you know this about me. I go into every meeting thinking I already know how things should be done. I'm a very decisive person, and I'm a very confident person. But that would be a tragedy if I came in and said, okay, here's this week's assignments, bark them all out and tell people to go perform. It wouldn't last very long.
I watched you in a roundtable, a Grow Leader roundtable, really recently. And if you're interested in our roundtables, you can find those dates and opportunities on growleader.com, where you had a group of pastors who had just come for a roundtable to spend time with you. And they're all sitting around in a room, and you opened up the entire thing with, hey, tell me what you guys are expecting from this. Like, where can I help the most? And went around the entire room and got questions in our content. And you probably knew this already, but you knew what they're wondering about, what they have problems with, where they need help. But it was generated, and their buy-in because they got to ask a question.
Exactly.
Is huge.
I even take it one step further. I actually even ask them, what's the best thing you're doing right now that I should be doing?
That's great.
And these are churches, younger than us, smaller than us, but I'm convinced of this. Everybody's doing something that we all should be doing.
That's great.
Because they perfected some best practice, I call it. One of my favorite discussions is being a group of pastors, 23, 30 leaders, and just say, what's the best thing that you do that I should be doing? And so the point is to be a learner as a leader, and even in your own staff meetings. And what it does is it empowers the group. They want to play ball with you when they have some buy-in to the process.
That's so great.
So here's the last one. So we're just trying to give you these leadership, building great teams principles. And we're kind of out of time, but this is probably the most important one, and that is to create an atmosphere of encouragement. So you got to ask yourself the question, why do people volunteer? So why would somebody who could probably make a lot more money in the business world come want to work on a church team? You got to think about that. What are the true motivations? Why would somebody want to take off work to come serve at the Grow Conference? We had hundreds of volunteers. They just took vacation days to come serve at our conference. What is that? There are 3 reasons, again, in your show notes, and that is they love to be together. I call it community. It's amazing what people do to be on the same team with someone else. And you know that. You were even telling me before we started the show today, you were telling me how you and a bunch of the campus pastors and people in our team were going to go play golf this Friday, 26 of you, and you're competing for
For nothing.
Yeah.
Just to get together.
But one of the joys of being on the team is not just that, we're a great church. It's like you love your buddies.
It's where we say the word family, and sometimes we say it flippantly, but this is where family really becomes family. You're doing life together. There's community with one another.
So if you're going to create that, then you have to be conscious of it, leader, that they're in this not for the money, not even sometimes for even what you accomplish. They're doing it for the community. The second one is the contribution side. To know that because I held that baby in that nursery, that mama got saved. Or because I helped park those cars, man, those people got to hear the gospel. Or and we have to constantly tie their service to the inline results, what's happening.
And we say it every time we can. So in Dream Team Central, which is where all of our volunteers spend time together, have a Coke, get breakfast.
They have little lockers in there.
We have lockers. It's their locker room. We celebrate every salvation. So whether you're in the parking team or you're a greeter or you're on the prayer team, you had a part in this person raising their hand and saying yes to Jesus. It's every Sunday, every time we get together.
And that's an atmosphere of encouragement. When one of these dream teamers can walk into that Dream Team Central, that locker room, as you would say, and walk in and see on that chalkboard, hey, last Sunday, 237 people got saved because you passed that bucket down that row or because you made that coffee. Well, now they're connecting it. And that's what I mean by creating an atmosphere of encouragement. And the last one, to create an atmosphere of encouragement, you have community, you you have contribution. But the third one is commendations. People love to hear their name. They love to be told, way to go. They love attaboys, attagirls, and I don't think we do it enough. And if you've ever noticed the Bible, a lot of the letters that Paul wrote, he ends with shout-outs. You know, and there are all these Greek names like, you know, eucalyptus and platypus and all the, you know. And he says, thank you for bringing me thank you for bringing me the parchments. Thank you for bringing me a blanket. I want to shout out to Syntyche. And you have all these people that Paul took time in Holy Scripture to say, hey, by the way, before I close this letter, thank you, thank you, thank you. And do we do that enough?
That's great.
And I know if we do this, if we create an atmosphere of encouragement, if we do these other principles in building a great team of leaders, I know this, you'll be the kind of leader that people want to follow, and you'll accomplish one of the most important functions in ministry and really in any work of life, and that is building great teams.
Celebrate people at every single stage of their journey. That's
Exactly.
what we learned. But they're brand new. They just got here. They joined the team. They've been here for 20 years. We celebrate. It's so great. Thanks so much, Pastor Chris. That wraps it up for today. Don't forget, next month, the first Monday of the month, we'll be right back here with brand new content to help leaders. We want to help you do this. Share what you've heard today, post it, rate it, review it. Let's get the word out about the Grow Leader podcast. And for more resources, be sure to go to growleader.com and be a part of the Grow Leader community. And finally, thank you so much to the Wesleyan Investment Foundation for all they've done to support today's podcast. We will see you next month.